Live from New Delhi, you're watching DT India Global. We'll get you the top stories from India and the region. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague Ollie Barrett in London. Good to see you, Ollie.
Hello Shubhendu, it's 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next half hour, Putin visits North Korea, a package for farmers in India, and weather disruption at Euro 2024. First, the headlines.
Russian President Vladimir Putin to visit North Korea for first time in over 2 decades. Focus on building trade and security systems beyond the control of the West. Last date for voters to register for the UK general elections. Nigel Farage of Reform UK Party promises tighter borders and tax cuts. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh to announce a package for farmers worth 200 billion rupees. Russia's President Vladimir Putin is travelling to North Korea for a 2-day visit starting Tuesday. It is the president's first trip to the country in more than 2 decades and the latest sign of deepening alignment. Ahead of his visit, in an article published by North Korea's state media, said that the Russian president has pledged his unwavering support to the country and promised to build trade and security systems that are not controlled by the West. And ahead of his visit to North Korea, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Russian northern city of Yakutsk. As per reports, the visit will include one-on-one discussions between the two leaders, as well as document signings. In a statement to the media, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak will be part of this delegation. And DT India correspondent Dasha Chernyshova joins us live from Moscow for the latest. Dasha, President Putin is travelling to North Korea for the first time in some 24 years. What necessitated this visit and what are the priorities?
Well, indeed, a very important trip by the Russian president. It is a return trip because Kim Jong-un, the leader of the DPRK, traveled to Russia's Far East last September, invited President Vladimir Putin to go to Pyongyang. So we are expecting the sides to work on the strategic partnership agreement. The Kremlin has said that this document could possibly be signed at the highest level during this visit, and that would be certainly paving the way for further cooperation and deeper ties between these two countries in all spheres, with Moscow insisting that it has the right to develop and strengthen its partnership with its neighbors, and that should not be a concern of anyone. So a very strong messaging, and certainly the Western countries will be very closely monitoring this visit.
And Dasha, in the larger context of strengthening the security infrastructure outside of Western dominance, how significant is President Putin's visit?
Well, indeed, as we have heard the Russian president making this letter ahead of his trip in the North Korean newspaper, he said that Russia supports North Korea and thanked North Korea for its support to Russia. He also has said that the two countries will be working on the alternative mechanisms of trade and mutual settlements that are not controlled by the West. This is once again showing the division on the global stage, where Russia is trying to create other alliances and other systems that will be not dependent on the Western countries, obviously after the West has imposed so many sanctions against Russia. But also the Russian president noted that there is a need of the construction of the architecture of equal and indivisible security in Eurasia. So this is something that we keep hearing more and more often from President Vladimir Putin, saying that the regional organizations and international organizations that are operating in Eurasia should serve as the basis for that.
Dasha, thank you for those updates. Meanwhile, South Korea's military fired warning shots after North Korean soldiers crossed the military demarcation line. This is near the border on Tuesday. Around 30 soldiers breached the line by 20 meters inside the demilitarized zone on Tuesday. As per South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff, the breach was unintentional. South Korea's military released photos of North Korean soldiers' border activities, which appeared to show the soldiers planting landmines and building road-like structures.
The North Korean military is carrying out various types of activities at the frontline area, including making barren land, planting landmines, reinforcing tactical roads, and installing unidentified structures which appear to be anti-tank barriers. Our military is closely monitoring the activities of the North Korean military.
Moving on, United Kingdom is gearing up for the general elections. Ollie Barrett is in London, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, final day of registration for the voters.
That's right, Shubendu. Today is the deadline for people who want to vote on July the 4th to make sure that they are registered. To do so, the opposition Labour Party continues to lead by a wide margin in the polls over the governing Conservative. The right-wing party Reform UK has been gaining ground in several surveys, overtaking the Conservatives in one poll so far, although under the UK's electoral system that is not expected to translate into as many House of Commons seats in Westminster as Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's party is likely to receive. Nonetheless, Reform Party candidate and leader Nigel Farage is promising tighter UK borders and tax cuts, saying that his party hopes to become a strong opposition for the party that does take power.
It would cause financial markets to freak out.
I've said from the start, this should be the immigration election. I have no doubt about that. I think the population explosion, the impact that it's had on people's lives, is the dominant issue. That 1 in 30 people on the streets of Britain today have come here in the last 2 years alone. Never before in history have we ever seen literally anything like it. And as for Labour, well, it's extraordinary that they launched their manifesto with their 6 key priorities, not even mentioning immigration, not even mentioning the impact on people's lives. So we want to have a proper, honest debate about it, and we believe that an overall freeze on net migration numbers is what we need for a few years to help us at least try to catch up.
DD India's Stuart Smith joins us live now from London. So Stuart, deadline day for voters to register if they do want to cast a ballot on July the 4th. What efforts are being made to encourage them to do so?
Well, firstly, it's a legal requirement. If people have been approached by an Electoral Commission's officer or received a letter telling them to register on the electoral roll, it is something people have to do. And that usually happens between the ages of 16 and 18, around $100 fine for anyone that doesn't sign up when asked. But millions fall through the net. In 2022, around 15% of eligible voters were not registered. And so efforts are underway, particularly by the media in the UK, to remind people that today is the last day, and there's an initiative for the young people, the around 4 million estimated young people that are not registered to vote here in London, which is designed as a social media campaign to first of all remind people that they can sign up and also let them know how easy it is to do. A 5-minute online process. The charity that has organised that, a pro-democracy charity, says that last time, in one day ahead of the local elections last month, they managed to sign up an extra 100,000 people. So it is an effort that has proved successful in the past.
Stuart Smith in London, thank you very much. Next to France, where election campaigning in snap polls called by President Emmanuel Macron to combat the far right is underway there. Far-right party leader Jordan Bardella has called on French voters on Tuesday to give his party an absolute majority so that it's able to govern effectively. French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal is challenging the feasibility of the far-right party's campaign promises.
Ils nous ont expliqué pendant un an que
Since
la
the
première
start
chose
of
qu'il
this
ferait, c'est,
campaign,
abroger
we
la
see
réforme
a
des retraites. Et
U-turn
puis il a dit, ah
on
ben
a
non, en fait,
proposal
je suis plus
every
sûr.
day.
Ensuite,
They have
ils
been
nous ont dit
saying for a
qu'ils
year
voulaient
that the first thing they would do is to repeal the pension reform.
Ensuite, ils nous ont
And
dit,
then
on
he
va,
said, oh,
baisser la
well,
TVA, on va
no,
supprimer sur les produits de
actually,
nécessité.
I'm
Alors,
not
finalement,
sure
non, on va pas le
anymore.
faire.
US envoy Amos Hochstein says the United States aims to prevent a greater war after increased exchanges of fire between Hezbollah and the Israeli military along Lebanon's southern border in recent weeks. Hochstein's been in Lebanon for a day of meetings on Tuesday following a brief trip to Israel. On Monday, Hochstein met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem to try and advance efforts to avoid further escalation along the so-called blue line between Israel and Lebanon.
The conversations that I had here today in Beirut and the ones that I had yesterday in Israel, both are being conducted because the situation is serious. We have seen an escalation over the last few weeks. And what President Biden wants to do is to avoid a further escalation to a greater war. That is the effort here. It will take everyone's interest in ending this conflict now. And we believe that there is a pathway diplomatically to do it.
Meanwhile, US Congress has agreed to support a major arms sale to Israel that includes 50 F-15 fighter jets worth more than $18 billion. It's reported Representative Gregory Meeks and Senator Ben Cardin have signed off on the deal under heavy pressure from the Biden administration after holding up the package for months. At Euro 2024, Slovakia secured a narrow 1-0 win over Belgium in an upset at the European Championships on Monday. France ground out that 1-0 win over Austria in their first game, but captain Kylian Mbappe came off in the 90th minute after a clash of heads left him bleeding from the nose. Well, we can go live now to Trent Murray, who's joining us from Berlin for more from Euro 2024. Trent, what is the latest on Mbappe and when we might see him back on the pitch?
Yeah, hello there, Ollie. That's right. The French Football Federation have confirmed that his nose is indeed broken. It underwent x-rays overnight, and so we understand he's currently recuperating with French team officials. No word yet on when he officially will be able to make it back into the squad, but what we do know is that the team manager is saying that the injury is quite bad. Kylian Mbappe, though, seemingly making light of the situation, posting on social media for suggestions from fans for what type of mask he could wear. And we understand a mask is under real consideration right now to try and get him back onto the pitch. He doesn't have much time, though, to make a decision on whether that can happen before the next match. France is due to play the Netherlands on Friday night. Many French fans will be watching very closely to see whether indeed they can get him back onto the pitch in time. But it certainly was a pretty nasty injury that we saw last night, as you say, in the 90th minute of that game against Austria.
OK, Trent, and two big games today, but the weather isn't making life easy.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the big one that we're watching is Georgia versus Turkey. That is because Germany has a huge Turkish diaspora here, and they were expecting hundreds of thousands of fans to cram into some of the fan zones, particularly in Dortmund and Dusseldorf. But we've just learned in the past few hours that all of those fan zones, including the one here in Berlin, believe it or not, has now been closed because of severe weather warnings. The National Weather Service is predicting heavy rain, hail, strong winds, even the possibility of isolated tornadoes, according to officials. For that reason, we're starting to see already officials here coming around, starting to close the fan zone area, and they're telling people if they want to watch those big matches tonight to either do it at home or inside a restaurant somewhere, because they are predicting some pretty bad weather.
Trent Murray in Berlin, keep dry. The Olympic flame has made its way to the island of Martinique. The flame started its journey through the Caribbean island at Mount Pelée. The flame ended its stay in the port city of Fort-de-France. The 2024 Paris Olympics will run from July the 26th to August the 11th, and the Paralympics from August the 28th to September the 8th. Busy summer of sports, Shibendu. Back to you.
Thanks, Ali, for those updates. And still to come on DD India Global. A US delegation including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in India to meet Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama. China and Australia signed MOU promoting free trade agreement. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting a North Indian city of Varanasi. This is Prime Minister Modi's first visit to his parliamentary constituency since assuming office for the third term. During the visit, PM Modi released 17th installment of PM Kisan scheme. Under the scheme, 200 billion rupees were transferred to over 92.6 million farmers through direct benefit transfer. Prime Minister will also witness the famous Ganga Aarti at Dashwamedh Ghat. He will also perform puja and darshan at Kashi Vishwanath Temple. And those are visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his parliamentary constituency Varanasi. The hosts of development projects that Prime Minister would be engaging with, focusing on the welfare for farmers in particular. Prime Minister welcomed by Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Clearly the focus on welfare of the farmers. Moving on, a United States delegation including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi arrived at Himachal Pradesh's Kangra airport to meet Tibetan spiritual leader Dalai Lama in Dharamshala. The delegation is received by officials of the Central Tibetan Administration. US representatives said their purpose of the visit is to reinforce the resolution that US signed for peaceful resolution of dispute over the status and governance of Tibet. India's outdated justice system is getting a major reform with 3 new laws replacing colonial era codes. These aim for faster trials, mandatory forensics, and a more victim-friendly system. Our next report brings you more.
For over a century, India's criminal justice system operated under the shadow of its colonial past. Sluggish case processing and limited victim rights plague the system. However, a recent revolution is rewriting the narrative. In 2024, India ushered in a new era with the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and Bharatiya Sakshat Adhiniyam. These new laws replace the archaic British-era codes, aiming to streamline processes, empower victims and deliver swifter justice. Gone are the days of victims spending hours filing complaints. The cornerstone of this reform lies in speed and transparency. Today, a few clicks on a phone app can initiate the process. This online FIR or First Information Report system not only saves time but also empowers victims, especially those in remote areas or facing mobility limitations. But the reforms extend far beyond convenience. The new laws prioritize victims' rights, placing them at the center of the legal process. Witness protection programs ensure safety, and courts must consider victim input before dismissing a case. This shift in focus acknowledges the emotional and psychological toll crimes inflict. Furthermore, the system is becoming more inclusive. Elderly individuals, women and people with disabilities no longer face the additional burden of navigating crowded police stations. Investigations can now be conducted in the comfort of their homes, a small yet significant step towards accessibility. Technology can also play a crucial role in the new system. Mandatory forensics for serious crimes ensures stronger evidence collection, potentially leading to higher conviction rates. Additionally, virtual court appearances allow for swifter proceedings and eliminates the stress of travel for victims and witnesses. However, like any other major reform, challenges persist. Ensuring proper implementation across the vast and diverse Indian landscape is paramount. Concerns regarding potential misuse of police power also requires vigilant monitoring. Despite these hurdles, the new legal framework represents a significant leap forward. India's criminal justice system is no longer an archaic relic, but a system striving to be faster, fairer and more respectful of all those who seek its protection. This is a revolution with the potential to transform the lives of millions, offering them the hope of a justice system that truly works for them. Bureau Report, DD India.
The High Commission of India in Sri Lanka conducted a yoga session at Kelanaya Temple in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo, on Tuesday. The theme of the program was Yoga for Well-being. The session was part of a 10-day yoga festival being held at iconic locations across the island. Let's now turn to other stories making news around the world. Former Prime Minister of Thailand, Thaksin Shinawatra, was granted bail on Tuesday, avoiding pre-trial detention for allegedly insulting the monarchy in the 2015 interview. He was released on bail of $13,600 under condition that he is prohibited from leaving the country unless granted permission by the court. China and Australia have signed a memorandum of understanding to promote implementation of China-Australia Free Trade Agreement from 2024 to 25. The memorandum is expected to help the two sides further deepen cooperation within the FTA framework. Eleven people were found dead in two separate migrant boat shipwrecks off the Italian coast. The aid groups and officials confirmed that around 60 people are still missing, including 26 children. Chinese EV maker Xpeng Aeroch flew its latest experimental drone car, Voyager X2, demonstrating what could be the future mode of transportation in the country. The car can fly for 25 minutes with a maximum speed of over 80 miles. Scientists at Stanford University have developed an insect-like robot with extendable legs designed to explore the deepest, unexplorable and seemingly challenging terrains of the Moon and Mars. Named ReachBot, the robot is capable to scan and find graspable points for further movement and explore areas normally left unexplored. Fascinating there. That's all in this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global.